Wednesday, Sundays, catch the ride. Football hoops, we breaking wide. Stats and facts, truth on high. SWAC talk where the convo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Just pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel. Hit the corner of the field, we strategize. Breaking the game down, no disguise. Play by play, we analyze. I wear sharp, we magnify. SWAC talk where the convo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Just pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel. Wednesdays heat, Sundays ignite. We talking legends shining bright. Back and forth, day or night. This the plug, we bring the light. SWAC talk where the convo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Just pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel. Wednesdays heat, Sundays ignite. We talking legends shining bright. Back and forth, day or night. This the plug, we bring the light. SWAC talk where the convo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Just pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel.
All right, everybody, what's going on? How y'all doing? Welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk, the show we cover the SWAC inside and out. I am your tour guide around the SWAC. See what else coming at you. And of course, we are gonna recap the SWAC championship game, Prairie View versus Jackson State. And as you can see on the screen, the Panthers pulled this one out 23-21. Man, this was a game I feel like Prairie View really controlled this game from the start. Cam Peters was a weapon from the start, especially with his legs and then with his arm. Jackson State never really got going, but that's a lot of that is because of the Panthers defense. And this was a Prairie View style game. The last few weeks they did have a high scoring, high powered offense, but for the most part this season they were comfortable with playing solid offense and really good defense. And his defense, I think, did a great job in this game. They gave up a couple big plays here and there, but for the most part, they made Jackson State have to work for their yards, work for their points. And I do believe the Panthers have a really good chance in the Celebration Bowl against South Carolina State. We'll see what the odds makers say. They came into this game as an 8.5 point underdog, so they really bested that. I thought this would be a close game. I think I said, I can't remember if I said 24-21 Jackson State or 27-24 Jackson State. So I was, I had the margin right. I was close to the margin, but I was wrong on the team. But I did feel like Prairie View belonged in this game. Coming into it, I felt like they belonged in it. Playing the game, watching them play. I still feel like they belong there. So I hope this deads any kind of Prairie View disrespect. This was not a fluke. I don't want anybody to say that. This is not an upset. I don't that none of that applies here. This was two really good teams playing ball and one team getting the win over the other. And shout out to Coach Taylor and Jackson State for having a great season and even being in position to host a championship game. It takes a lot of work to get there. You don't get that by magic. So, they had to put in work. They grinded. They battled some injuries. Obviously, they had a huge injury in this game, but it did not affect the outcome of the game. I don't want that to be overshadowing what Prairie View did, because the Panthers did what they needed to do. I think they confused Jackson State at times, especially defensively. Offensively, they just really hit the plays they needed. So let's take a look at the scoring summary first. Prairie View got on the board first with 4:22 left in the first quarter when Cam Peters had a 7-yard touchdown run, extra point good. That kept the 6-play 49-yard drive that took a minute 44 of the clock. Panthers led 7-0. Jackson State would answer with 11:20 left in the half in the first half when Jacoby and Morgan had a 29-yard run, extra point good. That kept a 10-play 91-yard drive. They took 4:16 off the clock, and Jacoby and Morgan would exit the game after that run. I think he re-aggravated his injury. So Jared Lockhart would take over from that point. Prairie View would get a 19-yard field goal with 7:20 left in the half. That kept the 7-play 55-yard drive with 3:52 left on the clock, 10-7. Jackson State would have the ball late in the first half. They would throw an interception. Prairie View would turn it into a Diego Alfaro 30-yard field goal. That was a 4-play drive that took three. That was a 4-play drive that took three. That covered 3 yards and took 18 seconds off the clock. Panthers went to the half up 13-7. That turnover and the offensive possession by Prairie View could have really swung this game wildly in the direction of the Panthers, because if they score a touchdown there, they go into the half up 17-7, and they got the ball to start the second half. So, you kind of looking at it like you got an opportunity to go to have, 10-14 unanswered points. For Jackson State, the defense stood tall and forced the field goal. So they really I really think they kept the game from getting out of control at that point. You're going down by 10, off 14. You know what I'm saying? You go down, you're going to have down by, 7 or 10. And, you just find yourself in a different position. So I think that, that's really a big play there for Jackson State to stand up there and get the stop and get the field goal. Panthers would come out the second half and score with 11:03 left in the third when Alfaro would kick a 42-yard field goal. 8-play 55-yard drive that took 3:51 off the clock. Prairie View led 16-7. Jackson State would score with 5:09 left in the third when Janalen Dupree would get a 22-yard pass from Lockhart. Extra point good. 4 plays, 45 yards, took 158 off the clock. 16-14. Panthers would answer when Cameron Bonner would catch a 40-yard pass from Peters. Extra point good. That came with 3:21 left in the third. 6-play, 75-yard drive, took 1:41 off the clock. 23-14. And then with 1:37 left in the third, Ahmad Miller 2-yard run for Jackson State. Extra point good. That kept the 4-play 79-yard drive that took 1:38 off the clock. Tigers trail 23-21 going into the fourth quarter. So kind of looking at what each team did with the ball after that. We'll start with Prairie View. Panthers will get the ball at their own 20. Let's see. They will get here we go. They will get the ball at their 25, and they will get the ball at their 25, and basically they would throw an interception. Jackson State will get the ball back. Fourth quarter, Panthers get the ball at their own 4 after a Jackson State punt. They would drive down to the 1 on a 16-play 99-yard drive. They took 9:36 off the clock. They had a fumble at the end zone. Cam Peters trying to go in ended up stretching the ball out and losing it. And Jackson State will recover. And then Panthers got the ball back after another Jackson State punt at their own 45. And they would run the clock out from there. They took 2:44 of the clock and ran the clock out. So they really had the ball the bulk of the fourth quarter. That was really, that long drive really chewed up a lot of clock and really made it tough for Jackson State. Jackson State only had one possession in the fourth quarter, and that was coming off of that fumble that they only that they ended up going 3 and out. So not a the Panthers dominated the fourth quarter on that one long drive, and so there was not a lot of possessions there, and not a lot of opportunities for Jackson State getting the ball on that interception in the third quarter and not being able to turn that into points. That really kind of hurt because that was basically one of their last two chances to score. So really, this was just a ball control type game for Prairie View where they really had a huge fourth quarter and were able to chew chunks of time off the clock and get the win. So 19 first downs for the Panthers, 10 for the Tigers, 130 yards rushing for Prairie View, 50 carries, 2.6 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. Only 84 yards on the ground for Jackson State, 27 carries, 3.1 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Let me put that into perspective. Because you really need to applaud Prairie View for that defensive effort. Jackson State, if you saw my preview, then you remember this. If not, Jackson State has only run for under 200 yards 3 times this season. Their season low in rushing yards was 191. So Prairie View held them well below that mark, and that takes some work. So you got to applaud that defense for throwing everything that they had at Jackson State on in the pass game and the run game, as they were able to really just. This was a Prairie View defensive game. The offense did enough to win. 84 yards on 27 carries. Again, not a lot of carries for Jackson State, but not a lot of possessions. So Prairie View really dominated the possessions in this game. They dominated, they just dominated a lot. The score is the score is probably closer than it should have been, but when you have a drive that takes so long and you fumble at the goal line, that's points down. Prairie View also missed a field goal, so that's potentially 10 points. 10 points more that you could have had. So this game is probably a little bit closer than it should have been, but like I said, Tigers 27 carries, 3.1 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. 294 yards passing for Cam Peters. I think his passing on Saturday was overlooked by a lot of people because he was able to have so many good runs. A lot of people just overlooked that. And I heard a lot of people saying, this guy's just a runner, which is not true. Cam Peters can run, but he is a passer. He will take off when it's there, but he is a guy that can throw the ball. So I think a lot of people kind of disrespected that aspect of his game, which if you look at his last 4 or 5 games, I don't see why you would feel that way. The guy has had great passing games in the last 4 or 5 games. So I think that was kind of got misconstrued by some people watching this game. But 294 through the air, 17 of 29, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Jackson State 160 yards, 8 of 15, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. 424 yards of offense for the Panthers. 79 plays, 5.4 yards per play. They had 4 fumbles. They lost 2, 8 penalties for 82 yards. Jackson State 244, 42 penalties. 42 plays, 5.8 yards per play, no fumbles. They had 8 penalties for 78 yards. A lot of people, are coming down on Jackson State on the defensive side. The offense only was on the field for 42 plays. The defense was on the field for 79. So that's almost, that's close to double. So when your defense is on the field that much, of course, the dam is going to break. But I really think that, to be able to hold these guys at 23 points when everything on your end goes against you, I do think you still have to kind of salute the defense for Jackson State for standing up in crucial times. Of course, they gave up the big drive, but they had a fumble at the end of that. So I think they did what they could do being on the field so much. But Prairie View really, this was Prairie View's game. I don't think you can look at that any other way. Panthers punted twice for a 33.5 yard average. Tiger 7 for 36.9. 38-56 time of possession for the Panthers. Again, almost double. 10 of 21 on third down, 1 of 3 on fourth down, 3 of 4 in the red zone. They had 1 sack. They were 2 of 2 on extra points, 3 of 4 on field goals. Jackson State 21-04 time of possession, 2 of 10 on third down, 1 of 1 on fourth down, 2 of 2 in the red zone. They had 1 sack. They were 3 of 3 on extra points, did not attempt a field goal. Like I said, everything on this, like if you go on the SWAC box scores, they put in bold which team had the edge in that number, and when you look at it, pretty much everything down the line, except for a few things here and there, are purple for the purple and gold. So this was Prairie View's game. I don't think you can look at that any other way. I think they did exactly what they wanted to do, and that was keep the ball out of Jackson State hands, keep the offense on the field, off the field. Don't allow them to have those big running plays that can open up their passing game. And the best way to do that is to keep them off the field. So I think they really did a good job with that. Cam Peters, 17 of 28, 240, 294, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 1 sack. Completed had a long of 66. Lockhart, 6 of 9 for 156 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 1 sack. Morgan was 2 of 4 for 2 of 6 for 4 yards before he came out. Peters led the Panthers with 24 carries for 100 yards. I really, like I said, I don't know how many of those runs were design runs. I know a few of them looked like they were. Some may have just been him making the read that he needed to make, but he had 24 carries. Chase Bingman, their starting running back, had 11. So nobody else had double-digit carries. He had double the carries of his running back. So he was the running game, 24 for 100, 1 touchdown. Had long of 19, which was their longest run of the night. Travis Terrell led Jackson State with 9 carries for 34 yards. He had a long of 11. Morgan had a 29-yard run, which was the long of the night for Jackson State. Rockwell, 4 catches for 96 yards for the Panthers to lead them. Rembert, 4 for 80 for Jackson State. Darryl Starling Jr. was leading tackler with 8. Tackle for loss, Starling, Parker, Sparks, they each had 1 tackle for loss apiece. Half a sack went to Gukake and Starling. They each had a half a sack apiece. Interception was by Starling as well. He had a really good game. You heard his name a lot when you watched that game. He was very impactful. Reed Pulliam led Jackson State with 14 tackles. Ashton Taylor and Jeremiah Williams led the defense with 2 tackles for loss. Brown had a sack and an interception went to BJ Washington. So, like I said, that was really this was really a really solid game for Prairie View. I mean, there's no other way to really look at it. Jackson State, they had a really good season, but they came up short here. It's going to be interesting to see, what tweaks they make. I mean, I don't think they have to make a lot of changes. I don't feel like this is one of those wholesale change type of situations where you got to do this and do that. I don't think that's necessary. I think this team is pretty much, they're going to fill some spots. They're going to be back again. You can't count this team out. I think it would be ridiculous to count them out at this point. They'll be back. Panthers, they move on Saturday, December 13th at 11 a.m., I think it is, Central Time. They will take on the South Carolina State Bulldogs. And of course, we'll be here to talk about that game. We're gonna take a good look at both teams as we get ready for this game. So that'll be on Wednesday. That'll be our recap. Um, I'm probably gonna, I know again, like I say, for 11 out of 12 teams, it is basketball season. So I think I'm gonna have a basketball video on Monday, just kind of taking a look at where we are at this portion. I mean, we through the first month of the season, and so I think I'll take a look at that. Like I said, Wednesday will be our preview for the Celebration Bowl. Thursday we back again with SWAC Smoke. Um, and then Sunday will be our recap. Depending on what's going on, I might go live Saturday. I'm not sure, but any other things that pop up newsworthy wise, I'll be here for those because I got a lot of time on my hands now. So you'll probably be seeing a lot of me for the next month or so. So, like I said, I'm gonna be sprinkling in basketball here and there. Like I said, Celebration Bowl. We did have the early signing day on Wednesday. Not much a note took place, so I didn't really bother covering that. But with the portal window coming up in January, we'll definitely get that. And anything that goes on with coaching moves or anything, we'll cover it all. So with that being said, man, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC, Seawells. I'm signing out, and I will catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.